Vanakkam, Vandanam, Swagatam, and a very good morning to all of you, those who have joined us this beautiful morning for the third session of the International FDP on yoga therapy in healthcare and educational settings. We have yet another, two stalwarts today, eminent people, the most wonderful people that I have known since I came into this yoga field. Dilip Sarkar sir, a person who is very, very well known for the commitment and sincerity. So welcome in Dada, who's very fondly called in as Dilip Dada. So I would like to start with a prayer and then hand over the session to our assistant professor, Dr. Balaji. So if you can all sit straight, adjusting yourself erect in your chairs. Oh. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Again, a very good morning to all of you. Yet another wonderful day of learning experience. Yoga, as we all know, is an experiential science, right? Anubhuti Shastra, as we always know. As far as Dilip Sarkar sir goes, Dr. Dilip Sarkar, he will be introduced very formally, but just one word that, like the little correspondence that I have had with him, the association, very, very few times I have had the good fortune of interacting with him. It is like the experience speaks. So yoga being the experiential science, what comes out of him, you will be seeing in the session yourself, understanding what I'm speaking about. All the practices he is doing till date, every day, with such commitment and sincerity, and that is what he is going to be teaching also. So he would be sharing the American experience, but still you can see that it is experiential coming from his heart and soul. And it is not just theory that he's going to be sharing. So welcome in Dr. Dilip Sarkar. I hand over the proceedings now over to our assistant professor, Dr. Balaji. Have a great day, pens and pads in your hands. So let's look for another wonderful day of learning. Thank you. See you.
Namaste, sir. Vanakkam. Good morning from this part of the world. I like two Dadas very much. One is the cricketing Bengal Dada, Saurav Ganguly. And next Dada I know is you, as sir always call you as Dada. So whenever sir call you as a Dada, I have the remembrance of cricketing Dada, Saurav Ganguly. And you are an inspiration, sir. And you are also one of the role model, how a medical doctor, a surgeon took yoga and practicing yoga and spreading the message of yoga and applying them as a wholesome therapy. So just a formal introduction about our Dilip Sarkar sir. He is a past president of American Heart Association and IAYT USA. Sir is a chairman of the Center for Integrative Medicine and Yoga, Taksha Institute, Hampton, Virginia. Sir is a retired vascular surgeon and turned yoga acharya, yoga therapist, Ayurvedic therapist, and he is a teacher of yoga and Ayurveda. teaches yoga therapy, Ayurveda philosophy nationally and internationally to healthcare providers, focusing on integrating yogic and Ayurvedic wisdom with the science of Western medicine. Previously, Sir was an associate professor of surgery at Eastern Virginia Medical School, Virginia. Dr. Sarkar started the first category of ACME-approved continuous medical education course in the USA for the physicians, yoga therapy for medical professionals in 2010. He served on several local and national healthcare boards as past president of the board of directors for the American Heart Association, Hampton, Virginia. Past president of the board of directors of International Association of Yoga Therapists, and he is also a chairman of the board of life in Yoga Institute, and he is a life member of National Ayurvedic Medical Association, a fellow American College of Surgeons and American Association of Integrative Medicine. He was awarded Doctorate of Letters. He got the award when our director said got DSc in yoga. So that is one of the similarities. One great occasion on SVSI, it happened in 2019. So this is a very, and he is also released DVD Yoga Therapy for Health and Healing, a daily practice. He published book on yoga therapy, Ayurveda and Western medicine, a healthy convergence in April 2017. So this is a very short introduction about Dilip Sarkar, sir. Sir is more than this. To speak about, sir, he is a big volume of both surgery, Western medicine, yoga, and Ayurveda. It feels a big pleasure to introduce you, sir. So we'll just start your video and go on to your speech now.
Before we start the video, Bala, as service here with us in person, I'd request for a few minutes you to address us. Then we'll play the video in case,
Sure.
Because it's middle of the night, so we won't miss this opportunity. So over to you, Dada. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Okay. Obviously, it is not the yogic time, but still, I know Anand, he's my younger brother. I know all of you, Ramanathan, I met many times. So what exactly she said, that yoga is a 99% practice and 1% theory. So I tell all the students, throw away all the books. You don't need any books, you don't need any papers. We say, Karo Yog, Raho Nirog. A simplest way of expressing yoga as a therapy. Second expression, what we always use is called yoga therapy is transformative. What is transformative? From rogi to nirogi to a yogi and yogini. And it is so obvious that my younger brother knows me very well. 22 years back, I had an open heart surgery for a significant triple vessel coronary artery disease. I was a vascular surgeon. Probably this was all due to, we call it a sympathetic overdrive, stress, because I had no other so-called risk factors. Today, after 22 years down the line, for last 16, 17 years, I have not taken a single pill. I have maintained in my dinacharya, a daily routine, through a complete yoga and Ayurvedic practice. It is called the parasympathetic activation. I'm even this time, I have a saliva in my mouth. I'm having parasympathetic activation, just looking at all of you, So it really is a nice, good time. It's a nice introduction. I'm sorry, I don't want to present in India at this time because what happened to me in the past, because of internet disruption, when I'm speaking, my lips are moving and sound is coming in different way. So let's play the video, and I am here. We'll be answering any of your questions and comments. So our new sutra, Karo Yog, Raho Nirog. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dada. Means so much. Over to you, Bala. Let's start.
Yes, sir. I'll share the video now.
So while he is playing the video, I thought like I will just share the few interactive moments I've had with Dilip sir. Such a down-to-earth person, a stalwart, but still very, very simple. So over to the speech now.
My dear brothers and sisters of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth and the School of Yoga Therapy, Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine. Good morning, India, and good evening, America. This is Dr. Dilip Sarkar from Washington, D.C., United States of America. It's an honor and privilege to be invited by the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine for their program, Yoga Therapy in Healthcare and Educational Settings. My presentation will be on integrating yoga therapy with the modern healthcare system and American experience. Let me share the slides with you now. Okay, here we are. I'm going to restrict my presentation primarily on the state of yoga therapy in America. I've been living in this country almost over 50 years, and I have a lot of assignments, you can see. I've been a president of the International Association of Yoga Therapists for for 5 years and for a long, long time. And we're going to show it to you how we are introducing yoga therapy in our healthcare system. This is a beautiful slide I received from one of my friends. It's a Western trained physician sitting in a Padmasana. Our American healthcare system is the most regulated healthcare system in the whole world. But on the other hand, given proper data, number, research, and the therapeutic outcome, it is the most liberal healthcare system to accept all the new modalities, including the yoga therapy. We'll present to you chronologically how slowly yoga therapy got integrated with the American healthcare system and what we have done to introduce the holistic yoga philosophy, the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, and the 8-limb practice, Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, in the healthcare system, instead of the reductionist practice of yoga asana only. And you'll see we'll go step by step. Yoga was first brought to America by Swami Vivekananda, and he came here for the lecture at the Parliament of World Religion on September 11, 1893. And he always mentioned that it was 108 years before the 9/11 of United States. He coined the term best of the East and best of the West, and he spread the spiritual part of yoga. Subsequently, a lot of people brought the yoga in United States. The next one was a Paramahansa Yoganand, the author of the autobiography on yogi, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who started the transcendental meditation, and he has a big whole city now. It's called Vedic City in the state of Iowa. Swami Rama established Himalayan Institute, Swami Satchitananda, the Yogaville, Swami Kripalu, the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, which is the largest yoga center in this country. Swami Sivanand Saraswati for Sivananda Ashram, Baba Haridas is the Mount Madonna Center. It was first Dr. Herbert Benson, the physician from the Harvard University of Mass General Hospital. He was a follower of transcendental meditation, and he noticed the physiological changes of the yoga practice. He measured all the physiological practices, and he wrote the book called The Relaxation Response. Immediately, it became one of the bestseller, and when you read the book, you will see he represented the relaxation response, what we call a meditation. The coming down of the mind, removing the repeat thought process, and increasing the gap between the thoughts. Probably at that time, he was hesitant to use the term meditation, but it was purely what we call meditation is the medication. He's still there on his name, the best hospital in this country, Massachusetts General Hospital, has an institute called Benson Henry Institute to introduce yoga in the healthcare system. Subsequently, a lot of physicians and who are your television personnel introduced yoga, but primarily they are a reductionist in the yoga asana format. One of them was Dr. Mehmet Oz, who was a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he understood yoga and Ayurveda very well. And he had a big time a television show of which he was introducing yoga. This was another TV personnel, Oprah Winfrey, and Dr. Oz was showing Oprah Winfrey how to use a neti pot. He was also interviewed in the Time magazine. Then came our Deepak Chopra. He is the endocrinologist, and he was introducing and improving the health of America through yoga and Ayurveda. He's the person who started introducing what we call the traditional yoga of the philosophy and practice of yoga. We came along at that time, after that, under the leadership of Rajan Narayan of the Life in Yoga Institute, and with a presenter, Satbir Khalsa, who is a researcher in the Harvard University and who will be one of your presenter, and myself. We started the first ACCME called Accreditation Council for Continuing Medical Education approved Category 1 Continuing Medical Education course for yoga therapy for physicians and healthcare providers. It is extremely difficult to get the category 1 CME recommendation or recognition for the physicians. On the other hand, physicians are not going to a conference unless they get the credit which they use for their recertification and your application for their licensing. It was in 2010 through Howard University, and it was Dr. Arvind Nandekar who helped us to get your category 1 recognition. We continued the tradition twice a year in person and different locations initially, but essentially ended up in a location next to a Baltimore, Washington International Airport. It was very beautiful setup, and the faculty was myself, Dr. Dilip Sarkar, Sadbir Khalsa, and Rajan Narayan. You have to submit all of our credentials, all of our slides, all of our presentations to get the CME recognition. Finally, we became very popular in the physician community, and Life in Yoga Institute applied to Accreditation Council for Continuing Medical Education to be the provider of the category 1 continuing medical education. It was an extensive process, 300-page application, multiple interviews, but with our persistence of providing that a traditional yoga to present the philosophy like Yoga Sutra of Patanjali and the practice of Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga in the yoga therapy. And finally, we succeeded in 2014. And as you can see, ACCME approved that Life in Yoga Institute to be the provider of the category 1 continuing medical education course, which was the first in the United States of America. We have a lot of physicians who came to our program and they got certified, and they were very happy with what we were teaching. And all the physicians then asked me that, why don't you put all of them for the physician in a book format? So I wrote the book, Yoga Therapy, Ayurveda and Western Medicine, A Healthy Convergence. This was primarily for the physicians and the healthcare providers, and how to integrate yoga therapy with the modern healthcare system. Here is the sketch in front of my book of Albert Einstein and Rabindranath Tagore, to sketch by my wife, Shikha Sarkar, who is an artist, and it shows that a scientist and a philosopher, and we mentioned to our physician friends that when the science meets the philosophy, it's 21st century medicine. The book has all the references for the physicians. It has references of 25 books from the physicians. It has a website from all the medical centers, and it has 75 articles from the established medical journal which our physician uses for daily practice, like Annals of Internal Medicine, Archives of Internal Medicine, the Journal of American Heart Association, New England Journal of Medicine, and I'll show you more and more. I'm not going through the papers, but I'll show you how many yoga therapy articles been published in the United States. This is our recent book, for the physicians, for the healthcare providers, the principle and practice of yoga in cardiovascular medicine. There is about 75 writers and experts. And I also wrote one chapter, which is the daily routine, the dinocharya, to improve your, or the dinocharya as a prevention for the cardiovascular disease. These are the few other books written by the physicians. My friend Timothy McCall wrote Yoga as a Medicine. Our friend Larry Payne wrote Yoga Therapy and Integrative Medicine. Larry Payne is very well known to your institute. And I wrote the little forward and little blurb with Dean Ornish. The Dean Ornish and myself wrote the praise for the book. The latest book, The Principle and Practice of Yoga in Healthcare, with Sadbir Khalsa, Lorenzo Cohen, Timothy McCall, and Shirley Tallis, put together primarily for the physician and the healthcare providers. Yoga therapy slowly became part of our new branch of medicine called integrative medicine. Integrative medicine means the integration of the wisdom of the traditional system of healing with the science of the modern medicine. 20 years back, hardly any medical school have a department of integrative medicine. Now almost 100 schools have it, 65 have a program, 25 have a training program, and they have established in 2014 the American Board of Integrative Medicine to be board certified. What is the board certification means in the United States? That means you developed a credential now to be a super specialist or subspecialist to practice, and integrative medicine became a subspecialty of internal medicine. The integrative medicine fellowship was monitored by the American Board of Physician Specialists. In 2020, the Academic Consortium for Integrative Medicine and Health assumed the role of recognizing integrative medicine fellowship. And the accreditation became very strict. Today, in 2023, we only have 18 active and 4 inactive programs of integrative medicine fellowship. This is the website for the American Board of Physician Specialists. You can go and see the integrative medicine, the eligibility, application, and the exam process. It is a very strict process to be certified by Board of Integrative Medicine. What was interesting, the seismic shift in American healthcare system is the Academic Consortium for Integrative Medicine and Health in USA developed the definition of integrative medicine, which refers the importance of the relationship between practitioner and patient, focuses on the whole person and looking beyond the body and mind to achieve optimal health and healing. The whole Western medicine or modern medicine in the United States was totally on the physician-based. Integrative medicine is totally on the patient-based. Patient is in the center. Patient is the true physicians taking care of themselves. So with this shift in the Western healthcare system, we started teaching the physicians the traditional yoga. And let me go over with you next few minutes what we teach. Most of you know what exactly I'm going to show it to you, but this is the shift from the yoga asana based the healthcare versus the whole yogic philosophy and practice in yoga therapy. Tell them It is not yoga, it is yoga. It's a Sanskrit word, union of body, mind, and spirit, union of Jivatma and Paramatma, and it is a text by Patanjali. Said there is a philosophy called Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, and the practice Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, and it was designed for self-realization, and the health benefits are byproducts which you use as a adjuvant therapy for chronic lifestyle-related disorders. Describe our existence as a body, mind, and spirit. Body is a hardware, mind is a software, spirit is a programmer. And I am the programmer. I control my software, so I control my hardware. We teach the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali's in the 4 chapters and go by chapter and emphasize more on your sutra, Sthiram, Sukham, Asanam in the asana practice. We teach them Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga practice, go through Yam, Niyam, Asana. Asana, we tell them it is a posture, external, internal alignment. Pranayama, pranayama, control and restraint of prana. It's a voluntary regulated breathing. Pratyahara, withdrawal and control of senses. Dharana is a focus. Dhyan is a meditation, controlling the repeat thought process. And samadhi is the union of the body, mind, and spirit. We totally discard the term yoga and meditation, which is commonly used in West and also even in India. I see it quite often. We tell them the meditation then is the 7th limb of yoga, and the meditation is a part of yoga. In the yoga teachers training, we teach them how to do the perfect yoga practices, including the asanas, pranayamas, meditation, all the 8 limbs. But in a yoga therapy, it's an adaptation of the yoga practices based on the patient's clinical condition. What does it mean? What does it mean that we establish a practice where the patient starts? Some of the patients who come, who can just only sit down in a chair, cannot even turn, cannot even breathe, also comes with the oxygen supplement. We teach them slowly the asana called Sthiram Sukham Asana. Relaxation response, activation of parasympathetic tone. Teach them the pranayama, voluntary regulated breathing, but is purely effortless. They do the pranayama as if it is their normal breathing, and when they continue the practice, a neuroplasticity sets in, and slowly the time gets more and more, and they become more proficient in it. We teach them in stages, impossible become possible. Inhalation is sympathetic, exhalation is parasympathetic. Teach them how to do a longer exhalation than inhalation. The meditation, we call this the meditation is a medication, and that is a mechanism of action of the yoga therapy. And difference between a meditation and medication, we said there is only one T is here, and in medication there is C. T stands for your transformation, and medication C stands for your choice. We also teach them that father of our modern medicine, the Hippocrates, has said it is more important to know what sort of person has a disease than to know what sort of disease a person has. We teach the yoga therapy totally on the base of the holistic, the whole approach, rather than that not interested about the disease a person has. We teach them, even when you're doing a Paschim Namaskar, like putting a prayer pose to the back, if you can relax the upper part of the body, rest of the body get relaxed. Your hip gets relaxed, knee gets relaxed. It is a total holistic. Holistic means we teach them that is a whole. We don't put the W in front, that becomes a word holistic. It is a relaxation response, an activation of parasympathetic tone. And all the physicians will come and ask, I'm exercising, why do I need to do yoga to incorporate in my practice? Exercise is a sympathetic overdrive. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, respiratory rate goes up. When there's a sympathetic overdrive, body starts the homeostasis, it starts the activating parasympathetic tone. So the heart rate comes down. So when you stop the exercise, you see how quickly your heart rate comes down, which is the shifting from sympathetic to parasympathetic response. In a practice of yoga and yoga therapy, it is a primary activation of parasympathetic tone without having the sympathetic overdrive. Why? During the sympathetic overdrive, a lot of crisis and catastrophe happens. It is the introspection, looking inside yourself. We say self-realization. Self-realization means develop real eyes. The eyes turn backwards. Now you started looking inside you other than looking outside. There is no problem in the world which does not have a solution. And there is no disease in the world which does not have a cure. Just awaken the doctor within. And we also say, how do you spell the disease? Dis-ease. So we say the treatment of dis-ease is called a effortless ease, which is a yoga practice. We must make our body work for us. Nothing has the greatest power to heal but self. The whole health is the art of self-healing. Yoga therapy provides the first roger chikitsa, treatment of a disease, then shastarokha, maintenance of health. These maintenance of the health become preventive medicine as your primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. At the end of the day, we finally, our teaching to all of our yoga therapy patients and the physicians that I am the cause and I am the cure. You have created the lifestyle related disorders and you are the only one who will be able to cure. That is called the patient-centered medicine instead of physician-centered medicine. Our Western medicine is an evidence-based medicine, and yoga therapy is a practice-based evidence. Keep practicing. We say, Karo Yog, Raho Nirog. Do yoga, stay disease-free. It's the art of transformation from a rogi, people with disease, to nirogi, people with no disease, to yogi, people with a comfortable life. This is a slide, I got it from our friend, our common friend, Dr. V.M. Hegde. And this is the thing he said, if West does not believe the effect of yoga therapy, and also when West doesn't believe in global warming, this is the sign. It is an experiential, means you are the creator of your destiny. It is a transcendental science. That means a science beyond science. It's a philosophy. That's what we say. We integrated Albert Einstein with Rabindranath Tagore, the philosopher. It is experimental, called personal practice. It is a lifestyle, art and science of healthy living. And we are in a position now to write a prescription on yoga therapy to help with chronic low back pain, metabolic syndrome, cancer, and other lifestyle-related disorders. Dean Ornish, cardiologist in the University of San Francisco, he was trained by Swami Satchidanand in the Yogaville in yoga, and he started a program, Dean Ornish's Lifestyle Medicine. And he gave the term intensive cardiac rehabilitation to reverse the coronary artery disease. He had extensive research and multiple healthcare system, and almost after 25 years, his program called Intensive Cardiac Rehabilitation is now covered by Medicare. Medicare is the government health insurance for people who are above 65, and also many other private healthcare insurances. So in America today, the medical healthcare insurances started reimbursing with yoga therapy, and now they're looking for your CPT and ICD codes very carefully. So our first teaching is a transformation, not to master the asanas or the posture, that's what we teach, but use the postures or asanas in stages for transformation and therapeutic benefits. Each asana at any state, like you're sitting here, if you can turn a little bit, turn slowly and stay here. Close your eyes, do the hand mudras, breathing out longer than breathing in, and in a short time you'll see you'll be able to do it a little bit more because neuroplasticity sets in, and slowly you'll be doing, paying attention that there is no pain. Pain means pay attention. So you don't want to go to the state of pain. And effortless breathing, because heart and lung is the same organ. If you put a stress in the heart, it shows up in the lung with the effort in breathing. And if you do effort in breathing, it shows in the heart with the increased heart rate and increased blood pressure. It is the yoga practice that meets you where you are. Very important, meets you where you are. You are not going to do perfecting poses or perfecting asanas or perfecting pranayama. A staged approach that teaches a pain-free asana, effortless pranayama, and meditation to optimize body's natural healing power. It also builds physical and mental resilience. So start from the patient who are there and go in stages, and it's in stages, impossible become possible. That is a Desikachar's very wonderful statement. Yoga therapy relaxation, we teach them that you sit down here, you're sitting down in a Sukhasana, and sit down here with the hand mudras, Dhanu mudra or a Gana mudra, and then you close your eyes, pay attention to your breath, breathing out longer than breathing in, relaxation response sets in, you go back to the next in Siddhasana. From Siddhasana, you can go to Ardha Padmasana, then go to Padmasana. In a Padmasana, it is the wonderful relaxation response. In fact, we teach them this relaxation response is the preventive medicine, because the relaxation response is going to work through what is called a psychoneuroendocrinology, and we'll be showing it to you how the relaxation response works. It was Swami Rama who first showed that a yogi practicing this pranayama and activation of parasympathetic tone, they can control their autonomic nervous system. Normally, we can only control our voluntary nervous system. They can open and close. We cannot even control our involuntary or autonomic nervous system. He was seen by a physician, Elmer Green, in 1969, and he said he can stop his heart. And he was all connected here, and he started stopping his heart. But he started stopping his heart, he got some atrial flutter, and atrial flutter looks like, then he said, just stop it, don't do it. But in the meantime, what happened, because of peripheral vasodilation and the reduction in the peripheral resistance, the blood flow in the hand through two arteries, radial and ulnar arteries, increased. This was the first introduction of yogis controlling autonomic nervous system. So what we have taught them in the relaxation response is that it increases the preload of the heart. That means volume of the blood received by the heart during diastole. And it is through effortless pranayama, which increases the negative intrathoracic pressure. So with the relaxation response and activation of parasympathetic tone, the peripheral resistance goes down and the afterload get decreased. You have an increasing
Hello.
Yeah, what happened? Technical problem.
Technical problem is being changed.
Just a moment, we'll restart. 1 second.
Okay, sir.
I have my slides. I can present, and if you have a problem. So what we have taught them in the relaxation response is that it increases the preload of the heart. That means volume of the blood received by the heart during diastole. And it is through effortless pranayama, which increases the negative intrathoracic pressure. So with the relaxation response and activation of parasympathetic tone, the peripheral resistance goes down and the afterload get decreased. You have an increasing preload, decreasing afterload, and it causes an excellent improvement of the ejection fraction. And there is no medication which can do it for your heart function. The relaxation response physiology is being published one after another in the medical journals, and I will show it to you. The established medical journals who have published all the articles about yoga therapy in the United States. This is the one in the Public Library of Science. This was actually authored by Herbert Benson, the father of yoga therapy in the United States, and showing the relaxation response, which is an expression of genes, which I'll come and show it to you, what it does to your body and mind. It acts like an antioxidant. It controls apoptosis. This is the Bible of Medicine in the United States. The New England Journal of Medicine published an article, then Era of Mind-Body Medicine. Herbert Benson was one of the authors. I'm not going through any of these articles, just to show you how the yoga therapy articles being accepted in the established medical journals in the United States. The Journal of American Heart Association, a prime journal. Meditation and Cardiovascular Risk Reduction, a scientific statement from the American Heart Association, 2017. The Journal of the American College of Cardiology, JACC, one of the most prestigious journal with the yoga-based cardiac rehabilitation after acute myocardial infarction, 2020 publication. This is just a few facts about yoga in America, how many people are doing it, and how much money is there. But American believes that yoga relieves stress, good for you, increases flexibility, strength, and performance. Basically, the word is out that yoga therapy is helpful in your chronic lifestyle-related disorders. When you look at the PubMed is the search engine for US National Library, and we put a yoga therapy, you will say over 7,000 articles, 7,500 articles. They do separate yoga and meditation, which is actually a Western term, but we teach them. the meditation is the seventh limb of yoga. But when you put a meditation, you get more articles, over 9,000 articles in PubMed search. So when you looked at the article published, the first sort of published article in established journal, which is the Lancet, 1973, Yoga and the Biofeedback in the Management of Hypertension. In next 2 years, in 75, it's called Randomized Controlled Trial, Yoga and Biofeedback in the Management of Hypertension. We were really wanted to show the physician community how early we start integrating yoga therapy in Western medicine. It's a landmark article by Nagendra and Nagaratnan from SBV in British Medical Journal, Yoga for Bronchial Asthma. JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, another prestigious journal, Yoga-Based Intervention for Carpal Tunnel Syndrome. This was an Annals of Internal Medicine, comparing yoga, exercise, self-care for chronic low back pain by Karen Sherman. And when this was published, she was in every television channel. She was in CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the television channels interview about her, about the yoga therapy in Western medicine or modern medicine. Spine is a very prestigious journal. We have an article in yoga therapy for chronic low back pain. Archives of Internal Medicine, same, a randomized trial of yoga, stretching, chronic. See, I'm not showing you the research journal. These are the all clinical journal which the American physician uses in the day-to-day practice. Again, Annals of Internal Medicine about chronic low back pain. This is the JACC, Journal of American College of Cardiology. Their acceptance rate, I have no idea, but it's a very, very extremely low. That means, maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 10. But they got an article published, Yoga Therapy for Atrial Fibrillation. So you can see how it is being accepted slowly and slowly. National Cancer Institute gave a grant for yoga therapy for breast cancer to MD Anderson Hospital to Lorenzo Cohen. And he started, connecting with SBV in Bangalore, and they published the paper, Yoga Therapy for Breast Cancer, along with their MD Anderson Hospital and Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anushandhan Sangstha of Bengaluru, India. And the same year, another article came up, Yoga Therapy for Breast Cancer, in the prestigious medical journal, Journal of Clinical Oncology. Another one, Archives of Internal Medicine, more doctors are prescribing yoga for their patients. University of Virginia, it's very prestigious, and maybe one of the top, number one, the state-sponsored university. They started a program, Foundation of Medical Yoga for Health Professional, and I was the one of the advisors to start the program and was teaching the instructor how to start that program. The SBV, the Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anushandhan Sangstha, brought their institute to United States, and they have started the yoga university outside India, which is mentioned the Vivekananda Yoga University, and they have gone through a rigorous process in the state of California to get the university status and started the program MSc in yoga. It is extremely difficult process to get a state certification to be established as an university in United States, but Vayu has succeeded. Now they are applying for their PhD programs. Newer medical schools, this is called your Oakland University, Bowman School of Medicine. They have started the School of Yoga Therapy in their whole educational system. The Maryland University of Integrative Health, They started the Master of Science in Yoga Therapy a few years back. And interestingly, they started in 2013, almost 10 years back. And all of their graduates gets a job right away, because all the established medical centers in this country, they're hiring the trained yoga therapists. And remember one thing, normal yoga teachers training in this country in 200 hours of training, and yoga therapy is between 800,000 to 1,500 hours of training. So it's a very long, rigorous process, because they need to understand the basic pathophysiology of every asanas, every pranayamas, every yoga practices. This is our friend. Most of you know him by now, our Larry Payne, Loyola Marymount University. And Rubenstein, she came to your institution before Laurie. Laurie came before with all of her group. This is all of them are in the white coat, and they visit the Venice Family Clinic as a part of their yoga therapy rotation. We teach the physicians how the yoga therapy works. It's called a psychoneuroendocrinology. The relaxation response, and it affects the limbic system of the brain, which is your emotional brain, amygdala, and the hippocampus. Amygdala responds to fear, and hippocampus to your memory. Through neurotransmitter, it sends a signal to hypothalamus for your homeostasis, and then through neurotransmitter, it sends a signal to the pituitary gland through pituitary adrenal axis. It corrects your hormonal imbalance. The altered hormonal homeostasis gets corrected, which is becoming one of the true cause for a lot of functional disease for the women and the men. It also affects your autonomic nervous system. It causes a rapid shift to parasympathetic from sympathetic overdrive system. It controls epigenetics. So what it is that all the chronic diseases are from genetic mutation, but genetic mutation doesn't cause the disease. The gene has to express. Gene is expressed by epigenetics, which is basically the environment, which is basically the yoga therapy and Ayurveda. It controls the gene expression, and it also acts as an antioxidant, and also controls your apoptosis. It controls your apoptosis and telomere length. So it acts like your youth. That means you don't age, and you really look very young and healthy when you're practicing a dinacharya, daily practice of yoga. Better immune status, and we teach them that in pranayama, the inhalation is sympathetic and exhalation is parasympathetic. The breathing and better oxygenation does what is called aerobic glycolysis. In aerobic glycolysis, glucose combines with oxygen, forms carbon dioxide and water, and plus ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy, and the different kind of energies, catabolic, metabolic, and anabolic. We connect them to the psychophysical body type in Ayurveda, catabolic being vata, metabolic being pitta, anabolic being kapha. If you don't have enough oxygen, you get an anaerobic glycolysis, and glucose and less oxygen produce lactic acid, pyruvic acid, pain-producing substance, and make your life miserable. So the aerobic glycolysis helps in all the pain and the control of the symptoms of the chronic lifestyle-related disorders. A regular practice of yoga increases vagal tone. That means your parasympathetic activation, modulates autonomic nervous system, causes a rapid shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic activation. creates a control over autonomic nervous function, increases baroreceptor sensitivity. Like we teach them that you put your head down, put your head below your heart. When you put your head below the heart without any support, without any assistance, your intracranial pressure goes high up, intraocular pressure goes up, intracarotid pressure goes high up. But if you keep it down, slowly the neuroplasticity comes in, intracranial pressure comes down, intraocular pressure comes down, the baroreceptor sensitivity goes high up, chemoreceptor sensitivity goes down, and you feel a profound level of relaxation response, which allows you to put your head down and feet high up without any assistance, without any support. So we teach the person to go through the headstand in stages. We teach the whole headstand and the heart rate variability for a whole session for the physicians who wants to introduce yoga therapy in their practice. The heart rate variability, when there is a more variable parasympathetic activation, when the heart is stiff, it is a sympathetic activation. Even the same heart rate is low. We teach them in a primary prevention that you have the genetic mutation or genetic change for your lifestyle-related disorders from your parents. But if you are practicing a relaxation response and parasympathetic activation, you get a genetic suppression, prevents the onset of genetic disease, which we call the preventive medicine. And here it is in the Cleveland Clinic, one of the prime institution of this country, is a 180 lifestyle program. It's a Time magazine, how not to end up here. That means in a practice of yoga therapy, it is a preventive medicine, so you don't end up in the hospital. This is their practices in the Cleveland Clinic, and this is their labyrinth they have. They're in charge of the program. It's called a Chief Wellness Officer. There is no illness anymore. It's called a wellness. In a secondary prevention, you are genetically predisposed. You did the lifestyle changes or whatever you did lifestyle created the disease. So now we have the clinical disease, you have the usual and customary therapy, but you included yoga therapy with relaxation response and parasympathetic activation. You get a genetic suppression, prevents progression and reversal of the disease. It is very common that coronary artery disease, it progresses. Or also if you have a breast cancer, the usual and customary therapy, but after a while, then cancer comes back because genetic mutation is still there. In a tertiary prevention, it prevents the complication of the disease, the complication of diabetes, diabetic nephropathy, diabetic retinopathy. Rehabilitation is very, very important. When you do a regular practice of yoga, primarily we tell them to do a daily practice. We said you take the medication daily for lifestyle-related disorders to practice daily. Better management of disease, less pharmaceutical support, and better quality of life. There's a cure for some genetically your predisposed disease, and these are the few disease examples. National Institute of Health, NIH and FDA, Food and Drug Administration, they control the whole healthcare system in America. And they have their centers called NCCIH, National Center for Complementary Integrative Health, and they help with yoga therapy. And in their website, you have yoga, what you need to know. The director is an MD physician, Helen Langeneville. She's an endocrinologist. She started her job in 2018. The whole NCCIH has a different name before and is established in 1998. And they get a good funding from NIH. And for this year, their funding is close to $170 million. The International Association of Yoga Therapists, the primary institute, primary association in the United States for controlling and regulating and promoting yoga therapy. I'm with the IAYT for a long time. I was the president for 5 years from 2013 to 2018. And during that time, we have established the mission to yoga as a recognized and respected therapy. We have a definition, publication resources, conferences. We had a standard, certification, and accreditation. As of yesterday, we have a total individual members of 5,135. We have a certified yoga therapist. We got a certified International Association of Yoga Therapists, 3,948. And my brother, Anand Balayogi, he was the first CIAYT from India. Total member yoga therapy schools are 152, and accredited yoga therapy training program is about 69. This is the definition of International Association of Yoga Therapy. I've defined yoga therapy is the process of empowering individuals to progress towards improved health and well-being through the application of the philosophy and practice of yoga. It took few years and years to come up this definition, because as you know, in the United States, every person has opinion. 330 million people, 330 million opinion. So we have to come up with this. I want to just show you what their activities are. It was established in 1989, the International Association of Yoga Therapists by Larry Payne and Richard Miller. It publishes a journal, International Journal of Yoga Therapy, also for a practice yoga therapy today. It is the annual conferences called SYR, Symposium on Yoga Research, and Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research. During pandemic, all the conferences were online, but now we bring it back. This is the journal, this is the practicing journal. This is one of their websites. You could see I was in the board president for a long time. And this is a program, Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research and Symposium on Yoga Therapy, which is also actually the brainchild of our Sadhbir Khalsa. Harvard Medical School, the #1 medical school in this country, also have the program in yoga therapy. The Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., the most iconic landmark in the United States is the Smithsonian. And there was a program, Yoga as a Lifestyle Medicine in Smithsonian. I was one of the presenters for that, and IAYT was the sponsor for that conference. API, the American Association Physicians of Indian Origin, they have a big Indian origin physicians in the United States. They have their own journal, and one of the journal has a special edition, Yoga Therapy Guide for the Physicians. And this is the API Yoga Therapy Clinic. They are introducing yoga therapy in their own practices. And these are a few patients. I just want to show it to you, how it improved to come to our classes. This is Alan, who had a ejection fraction of 10 to 20%. It's an inoperable coronary artery disease, but the practice of yoga, asana, pranayama, meditation with a relaxation response, his ejection fraction got from 10% to 40%. Then he started doing the headstand on his own. And as I said, headstand is a profound relaxation response. And you can see with the parasympathetic activation, even the blood work gets better without any medication. This is due to baroreceptor sensitivity. Patricia had a multiple sclerosis. She was in a wheelchair with the practice. She's standing now. She put her license plate in her car called Transforming. So I asked her, do you know, yoga therapy is called the art of transformation. And she has also a little bit of asthma, which got better. Span had a Parkinson's disease, with yoga therapy, he was able to stand on one foot and able to do a headstand on his own. Robert is a cardiac cripple. You name it, he had it. He had so many, he had a malignant hypertension, a surgery for VSD, surgery for descending for atrial fibrillation, congestive heart pacemaker. I mean, the cardiologist gave up on him. He was practicing the balancing poses and the mudras and daily practice. His blood work becomes almost like a teenager's blood work, and he's enjoying a good quality life. This is very interesting. This is a yoga practitioner for the whole life, and he was practicing his headstand for a long time. He had a cataract surgery, and the cataract surgery was done by a physician who also practices yoga, who also practices headstand. And he said, I know the basic physiology behind it. I don't want anybody to practice headstand after a cataract surgery, but since you're doing it all of your life, nothing will happen to you. Go ahead and do it. 6 weeks post-op, he's doing a headstand after his cataract surgery. This is the beauty of yoga therapy being individual for this Western medicine. She's actually in charge of the Parkinson's disease program in the Virginia Beach area, and she got better with the yoga therapy. Look at the Parkinson person is doing a tree pose, Brikasana. It also improves your outlook. This lady, when she came, she had a stroke, intracranial hemorrhage, and she was sitting down doing nothing. Slowly we tell them to, why don't you keep your spine straight, keep your eyes closed, do some pranayama. Slowly and slowly she get into it. Then she started putting on some nicer clothes. She started putting on some makeups on, and finally one day come with this bright clothes on her. So what happened, when you feel better, you look better. So finally, to finish my session, I always tell people, where do we learn this origin of yoga therapy? Origin of yoga therapy, we learn from the babies. All the children does yoga. Why? Because they feel better. It creates some physiological changes for which they keep on doing it. I have 2 grandbabies. I taught them. They do every yoga poses. Actually, the school also teaches them. They sit down in Vajrasana, Sukhasana. They get up into a Bhujangasana. This is Salabhasana. Adhumukha, downward facing dog, Marjarasana. Jatat Parivartanasana. Another one. Kupavishta Konasana. We try to do it, and they do it normally because this is the part of that, Paschimottanasana. So all they do is yoga poses. We try to do a balasana, but here they do it so spontaneously without any effort. Supta Baddha Konasana, that's the way they sleep. They put the foot together, they sleep, babies. We teach the people with insomnia to start sleeping with a Supta Baddha Konasana. They do a Nukasana, foot pose. So this is my last slide for you to take home. This was a slide from actually Dean Ornish. This was from Swami Satchitanand of Yogaville. He was invited in the University of Virginia with a large group of physicians to give a talk on yoga therapy. He got into the chalkboard. He wrote illness and wellness. Then he circled I and the we when he says, when you change I to we, the illness became wellness. Thank you for giving me the privilege to present to you the integration of the yoga therapy and modern healthcare system and American experience.
Thank you so much, Dada. That was most amazing. I enjoyed every moment of it. And the fact that I know that you are there live on the other side of the world with us at the same time really brought it out. So I would like to open it up to any short questions. It's been a long session, but you know, Dilip Dada is one of the pioneers. And I wanted all of you to meet him. I wanted you to listen to him, because every time I meet him, I get inspired. And of course, I get well taken care of. When I was at the IAYT event, he took such beautiful care of me, made sure I never went a moment without good food or rest or company. And that is his generosity. So I open to any questions for maybe 2 or 3 questions, and we can listen to Dada live here.
Okay, let me interrupt you for 1 second also. First, all my presentations are unscripted, it's impromptu. This slide generally guides, but this is all from our personal practice and experience. And next, all of you come to United States, come to Washington, DC, and stay with me, okay? And we'll be doing one thing, we'll be practicing 24/7 with me, okay? People ask me, how long do you do yoga? I said 24/7. I'm here, you know. Did I show you that? Let me show you other people. I sit down in a chair, it's called a kneeling chair, kneeling stool. So what it does when you sit down, you keep your spine straight. I keep my spine all the time. And then this desk is called your motorized desk. I raise it up, so my keyboard is here, so I'm literally all the time in front of computer, which called Merudanda Achal, Manasthir. Spine straight, my mind is quiet. Thank you. Okay, open for questions now or comments.
There is 2 questions. One is from Joshi Niyanta in Gujarat. She is asking how pranayama can decrease ejection fraction.
It's not the pranayama, it is the whole called relaxation response and the whole called parasympathetic activation. So what it does, when you are in a relaxation response, your breathing slowly and slowly becomes very effortless and with a neuroplasticity. Like for us, when you started, the lung is like a balloon. It has 6-liter capacity and it needs 1.5 liter to keep it open. Over 4.5 liter, which you can exchange, called tidal volume, vital capacity. But we only exchange 500 cc, half a liter. So initially, what we say for yogic practice, breathe out first, empty the lung. Slowly breathe in without any effort. Most important pranayama practice in yoga therapy is that you will be able to talk, you'll be able to sing. You know, even the asana practice, you will be able to, you'll be able to do your literally singing and talking at every asana practice. That's a relaxation response is. So we used to do, say, a 2-second in, 4-second out. But after a practice now, we can do 8-second in, 16-second out, 10-second in, 20-second out. So when you have that much of a capacity in the lung, your negative intrathoracic pressure goes higher. So negative pressure is high, you get the more venous return to the right side from inferior vena cava, which is called a preload. So now in diastole, you have a more blood in the heart called preload, and due to relaxation response, you had a peripheral vasodilatation, a reduction in the peripheral resistance. So it's called an afterload. So heart can contract without that effort they need. So slowly and slowly, if you remember the patient I showed you, he has a inoperable coronary artery disease, 10 to 20% ejection fraction, but with the practice of relaxation response, it went up to 40%. And we see it quite often from our clinical practice. And it is all due to not the pranayama, it is a relaxation response and activation of parasympathetic tone, which pranayama does, and also meditation does.
Thank you, Dada, for that very beautiful example of how we change the preload, afterload conditions by altering the autonomic nervous system function. And there is a question from Anurag, who's asking, what are the key precautions to be taken in yoga therapy?
Yeah, first of all, we all talk about our, restrictions, proper indications, proper contraindication. The first thing of yoga therapy is introspection. Looking inside yourself, it is a patient-based. So what it is, when I am starting a yoga asana pose, there will be no pain. Pain means pay attention. Pain means that you have created some imbalance in your body. So here I'm sitting down, I'm slowly turning my body, I'm feeling a pain. So what happens when I feel a pain? I back off. I back off, but I stay here. I stay here with my eyes closed, with my hand mudra, because mudra connects your body and mind, and with my effortless breathing, slowly and slowly a neuroplasticity sets in, which is called a habit forming. Then I'll be able to do more. Slowly I'll be doing more. Why? It happened to all of us. It happened to me, it happened to Anand, it happened to all of us. And then you have to have an effortless breathing, what is called Annamaya Kosha to Pranomaya Kosha. Any imbalance you create in your physical body will show up in your breath. So our teaching to all the patients is, you practice a yoga therapy without taking a pain medication. Do not take a pain medication and practice a asana, because your body response, pain, as I say, pain means pay attention. Smaller pay attention, small part is a pain. So if you take out that pain, you will be doing the poses which is going to hurt you. So no pain, effortless breathing. The moment you have an effort in breathing, you're going to hurt yourself. So people ask me, oh, do a very slow Bhastrika, very slow Kapalbhati, very slow. It is nothing called slow. It is exactly yours, that effortless. What happened, even if you have underlying condition, you have a asthma, COPD, pulmonary fibrosis, but with the pranayama practice, you will see slowly and slowly you'll be doing a lot faster and faster your Bhastrika pranayama. But as long as it is effortless. Another thing we do, I show it all the time. You can go to my YouTube channel, see, we always practice with a health tracker. I put my Apple Watch, I put a Fitbit. So we teach every person, have a health monitor when you are doing the practice of yoga therapy. So you know exactly where you stand, you know exactly. So for us, there is no contraindication. For us, contraindication is you and your so-called the paying attention, we call it introspection. Like for example, you do yoga practice and tomorrow, next day, you get a pain in your muscles. That means you have not paid enough attention. If you look one of my slides called anaerobic glycolysis. So if you have aerobic glycolysis, you're not going to have a pain in the muscle. Same example, somebody is going to run. Today she's going to run without showing any effort in breathing. What happened next day? They get a pain in the muscles, but not. So coming back again, yes, initially everybody will teach you what is restrictions, what is contraindication, but essentially it is you. You are in the center. No physician is coming to you. Physicians are just your guide with the center, and you will be progressing your practice based on your level of pain-free asana and effortless pranayama. Again, Desikachar's famous word, in stages, impossible become possible.
Thank you so much, Dada. That was such a beautiful lesson in introspection. And I think all yoga therapists and yoga teachers must take this to heart, because unless there's introspection, it cannot be yoga. And that guides us from within. So whenever I listen to you speak, I hear my thoughts being echoed from outside. So it's quite funny for me to listen to you speak many times, because so many things come back. And it's just such a beautiful experience. We thank you, Dada, for being with us at this middle of the night, taking the time to answer our questions, share with us. And we hope that in the near future, we will host you in Pondicherry for a complete 2 or 3 day workshop where people can get the fill of your wisdom. Dhanyavad, Dada.
I will come. My last statement is to all of you, when I speak, it looks like Anand Balayogi is speaking. When Anand Balayogi is speaking, it sounds like I'm speaking. We think alike, talk alike, and act alike. Only difference is, no, I'm younger than him, a lot younger than him. He just called me Dada. Mentally, I'm younger than him, okay? Except my hairs. Thank you again. Good night from here. Good morning from India.
Thank you so much, Dada. I would like to now pass over to Dr. Balaji to introduce our next speaker. We have a very wonderful speaker with us today, and that is our dear Dr. Venugopal, and he is going to be giving us some very, very important wisdom on diabetes through yoga therapy. So over to you, Balaji, for the introduction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dada, sir, for your wonderful session. Now we welcome Dr. Venugopal, sir, who is going to speak on addressing the core pathophysiological abnormalities in diabetes through yoga therapy. So a short introduction of Dr. Venugopal, sir. He's an Assistant Medical Officer, Lecture Grade 2 at Govt Yoga and Naturopathy Medical College in Chennai. He did his BNYS from Govt Yoga and Naturopathy from the same college, and MSc Diabetes from United Kingdom. Sir did his postgraduate diploma in yoga and MSc in yoga from Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sports University. Sir finished his PhD yoga from SBV University. He did fellowship in cardiac rehabilitation from Medversity, and renowned diabetes researcher and scientist with over 55 scientific research publications in index journals. Served in many prestigious institutions in various roles such as scientist, Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, a research fellow and assistant professor of SBV University, and assistant director of Stop Diabetes Movement. He contributed to various government-funded research projects funded by Ministry of Ayush, Indian Council of Medical Research, Department of Science and Technology, University Grants Commission, and Coconut Development, Government of India, etc. Sir's area of interest are reversal of diabetes and other metabolic disorder through evidence-based yoga and naturopathy therapies, editorial board member of the Journal of Indian Medicine and Homeopathy, professional member of diabetes in UK, British Registry of Complementary Practitioners, and Research Society for the Study of Diabetes in India. We welcome you, sir, for giving the core concept of pathophysiological in diabetes through yoga therapy. We welcome you, sir, and over to you, sir.
Vanakkam, welcome, Dr. Venugopal. Pleasure to have you with us and looking forward to listening to you. Over to you now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me for this wonderful opportunity. Today, my presentation is going to be on this specific concept, addressing the core pathophysiological abnormalities. So I'm going to talk about like from the triumvirate model of diabetes, the pathophysiology of diabetes, all the way to the ominous octet model. So the triumvirate is generally we talk about the three pathophysiological abnormalities when it comes to diabetes. We generally talk about like say about insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity. When it comes to yoga or yoga therapeutic, yoga therapy part, there are many more things which yoga can do. Yoga is not only about insulin secretion and insulin resistance alone. In this session, what we are going to explore is what are the other ways through which yoga is beneficial from the pathophysiological point of view. And thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. My journey into diabetes and diabetes research started during my graduation, during my bachelor's, when I did my VNYs. VNY is a 5.5-year medical degree on yoga and naturopathy. We read anatomy, physiology, pathology, and all those things. Along with that, the yoga therapy part and also the naturopathy management part. In one of the examination was on yoga therapy. And the subject external, it was a practical examination, and the subject external was asking me to do Artha Machendrasan. I did Artha Machendrasan, and he asked like what are the benefits. So obviously the first benefit which I told was it's good for diabetes. He said like, okay, it is good for diabetes. How is it good for diabetes? I told when you are twisting, it squeezes insulin out of pancreas, right? Like that's what is being taught to me, and that is what till date that is what has been taught in many yoga schools as well. When you're twisting, when you're doing Artha Machendrasan, insulin gets squeezed out of your pancreas. I told the same, and for the next, like say for the next 5 to 10 minutes, he kept scolding and humiliating and everything. He asked me, you have read anatomy, physiology for 1.5 years, like complete 1.5 years. It's only for anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. Pancreas is a very tiny organ situated inside, like it's a visceral organ. When you're twisting, you're moving beyond your skin, muscle, fascia, and you got your stomach and underlying organs. This pancreas is even deep-seated than that. So do you think you're going to stimulate your pancreas just by twisting? First question. And second question, how does the hormonal secretion work? Is it like you go and squeeze all the endocrine organ and it releases insulin? No, it doesn't work that way. So your answer, whatever you said, it is not scientific. I asked him like, okay, sir, sorry, this like, I cannot say like this is what has been taught to me. Like, apology, sir, could you just tell me the answer? He told, you go and find by yourself. I will next year when I come for Viva to some other subject, then you tell me the answer. So I went in search of how yoga works in diabetes. Okay. So I went into the literature, I went into the PubMed, Google Scholar, wherever it is possible to find. This happened like way back in, I think, 2005. This is like good 18 years back this happened. So at that point, I went in search of like research articles on yoga for diabetes. So the very first documented evidence on yoga for diabetes was in 1984, right? So it was a scientific proceeding. It was published, it was presented in 1984. And the very first paper, RCT, a proper RCT with HbA1c was done way back in 1992, Monroe et al., where again, Nagratna Didi from SVS University, when she was in UK, that was done. This was done in 1992. And in 2010, I wanted to do a systematic review on all the studies on yoga for diabetes, which measure HbA1c. Okay. In 1992, there was one paper. Between 1992 and 2010, that is in this 18-year period, when I went and searched for the articles, can you imagine how many articles on HbA1c and RCT measuring HbA1c studies were able to find? There was only one other paper. Apart from the 1992 paper, there was only one more paper, which was by Sporogonsa et al. And even that paper said yoga is not beneficial in reducing HbA1c. So this was the status of yoga research up until 2010, right? And this incident with my external examiner, this application happened in 2005, right? So at that point, yoga research on diabetes, understanding its mechanism of action is very much needed. When you're comparing the same period between 92 to 2010, when it comes to the pharmacology, the pharmacological aspects of the diabetes drugs, how it is beneficial in diabetes, up until 1992, there were only three classes of drugs. One was insulin, one was the sulfonylurea, other was the biganides, the metformin, what we call as. But between 1992 to 2010, now currently there are like 11 different class of drugs are available for diabetes. This is again like 13 years back. Now we might have a few more things as well. But yoga research, it was very, very limited. But when it comes to the pharmacological aspects, we have plenty of avenues that are open, right? There are plenty of avenues that have been opened. So instead of working on or instead of trying to understand how yoga works in diabetes, I just pushed that aside and I wanted to explore more on what diabetes is. I wanted to understand the pathophysiology of diabetes in depth so that we can manage diabetes in a better way through yoga, right? And yes, I mean, around about the same time, it's not the same time as such. I want to tell you another incident where this yoga therapy and diabetes, because of this, the mismatch kind of thing, I had to go into some kind of argument, right? So, like just by telling like whether Artha Machendrasan is beneficial in increasing or reducing insulin secretion or insulin resistance need not necessarily be the answer, right? So I wanted a holistic way to understand and explain how yoga is beneficial in diabetes, right? So for that, just diabetes is not just a condition of only insulin resistance and insulin secretion. As Dr. Balaji was mentioning during the introduction, my area of interest and my area of expertise is into diabetes reversal. So when you're talking about diabetes reversal, we are not only focusing on, we cannot only focus on only insulin resistance and insulin secretion. And that is when I came across this ominous octane model of how various pharmacological drugs are beneficial in the management of diabetes by addressing various pathophysiological abnormalities. Okay, fine. At this juncture, before going into now for the next 30 to 40 minutes, we are going to run through each and every pathophysiological abnormalities mentioned here in the ominous octane model of D. Francois, how yoga is going to be beneficial in each and every aspect of this. That's what we are going to see in the next 30 to 40 minutes. This is going to be a little bit more interesting. I can tell you and I can assure you of that, because this is an unconventional way of looking at how yoga is beneficial for diabetes. Fine. Right. Now, moving into this, the incident which I wanted to share is, during the introduction, as it was mentioned, I worked in a tertiary diabetes specialty hospital, right? I was a scientist at the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. And I was also a consultant at Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center, which is the world's largest chain of diabetes specialty hospital. And so there, for recruiting for one of the DST research projects, so I was trying to convince the endocrinologist to refer patients to our yoga study. And the objective of our study is, whether yoga is beneficial in delaying the insulin initiation. Insulin initiation in the sense, during the course of a diabetes patient, like generally in general for a type 2 diabetes patient, medicine generally we begin with metformin, then medicine gets added on, you get an glimepiride, sulfonyl urea, and over the time period, you might get a third class of drug, either to the SGLT2 or any gliflozins as such. And like say 10 or 15 years down the lane, they might end up in insulin. And our research objective, sorry, hope the voice is not breaking. So our research objective here was to see, instead of insulin initiating the insulin introduction as medicine, like say from 15 years, can we just delay to 20 years? That was the research question. When I went and spoke to the consultant over there, the consultant told, no, yoga is a slow form of physical activity. That's what he told. Yoga is a slow form of physical activity. When it comes to diabetes, we need a more rigorous physical activity so that insulin resistance can be brought down. Only when if insulin resistance is brought down, the sugar level would come down. Okay, so that's what he said. And I had to explain him through the whole ominous octet model. It was like just a 10-minute process. And after that, he agreed and understood that yes, yoga can delay insulin initiation, right? So we are going to run through this. I know like many clinicians are here as well. Many clinicians, yoga therapists are here. So the application of yoga in various aspects, that is what we are going to see now, right? So the first of these 8 pathophysiological abnormalities, the first one is the beta cell dysfunction. Now, beta cell dysfunction is not only about reduced insulin secretion. We have 3 components in it. One is a qualitative disorder. The other is the quantitative disorder. The third is the secretion timing disorder. Now, qualitative in the sense, qualitative disorder is when insulin is secreted. Okay, let's just go to the next one. Next slide. When insulin is secreted, some amount of C-peptide, not the some amount, it's the equimolar amount of C-peptide would be secreted. And also some amount of pro-insulin would be secreted. In a normal, healthy individual, the number of pro-insulin secretion is much lesser than when compared to the secretion of insulin. It could be hardly like 5 to 10% of the total insulin secretion, right? So that is how less, like only 5% should be. I'm just saying like theoretically, it is, you don't have an absolute value of how much of proinsulin need to be secreted. It's kind of relative thing, relative to your blood glucose level and also your insulin secretion. Anyway, like say if only 5% of proinsulin should be secreted along with insulin, but if we have diabetes, what happens is that number increases to 20% of proinsulin getting secreted into the secretion, into your blood circulation. Now, what happens? This proinsulin goes and sits in the insulin binding sites, that is on the insulin receptors. If these proinsulins are going and sitting on these sites, then there is no space for the insulin to get attached to those insulin receptors. So as a result of it, in proinsulin is not even like half good as insulin in reducing blood glucose levels, because it is not ready and completely, completely cooked insulin as such. Like a food, if it has to be cooked in a pressure cooker, we need to allow it to cook for some time. If it's not getting cooked out, we are just going to get unboiled rice, which we cannot consume. The same applies for proinsulin as well. Now, if the number of proinsulin secreted along with insulin is increased, that is what we call as qualitative disorder. Okay, that is the quality of insulin is less because of more proinsulin getting secreted. The second is the quantitative disorder. Quantitative is like how much of insulin is secreted. And the other thing is the secretion timing disorder. Secretion timing disorder we'll see shortly. Insulin is secreted in 2 phases. The first sharp rise followed by a steeper one. I'll show with the graph shortly. There's one more thing called de-differentiation. When I submitted my PhD synopsis in 2015, my PhD topic was effect of yoga-based lifestyle modification. Yoga is a way of life. As I said in the previous session, yoga is not a 1 hour a day thing. Yoga is a 24-hour a day thing to do. It's a way of life. It's not the asana, it's not the pranayama, it's not the meditation. It's a way of life. So my study title was Effect of Yoga-based Lifestyle Intervention in Reversing Beta Cell Dysfunction. Right? But my topic was rejected. My topic was rejected. Why? Because they say, even in type 2 diabetes, after certain stage, that is when insulin is required, your beta cells actually die. They end up in apoptosis, so that cannot be reversed. They said, don't waste your 5 years. Don't waste your 5 years. You cannot reverse beta cell dysfunction. But actually, beta cells don't die. Right? So beta cells don't die. They go in, it's not about the apoptosis. There's some other process which happens, what we call as de-differentiation. De-differentiation is all cells originate from stem cells, right? So from stem cells, cells differentiate into alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, and all those cells. Beta cells secrete insulin. We all know that, right? During adverse conditions in the sense like if the milieu interior is disturbed, what happens is this beta cells goes back inside and becomes stem cells. That process is called as de-differentiation. Okay, so de-differentiation is a process, and so at that point natural insulin will not be secreted. So at that point, we are taking insulin injection. So if the milieu interior, the internal environment, if it is getting better, at that point, body would regenerate beta cells. The body would, our body would regenerate beta cells, leading into insulin secretion. It is just like during the time of COVID. COVID time, what happened? The situation was not conducive because of the COVID virus. We isolated ourselves inside our house during the lockdown, right? So when the environment is good enough, we came out and we're doing our normal things. Likewise, in diabetes, the sugar levels are higher. If insulin gets secreted, what happens? All this glucose would enter into the cells, and because of osmosis, cell damage would start to occur. So what nature does? No more beta cell secretion, no more insulin secretion. So all beta cells were in a lockdown, going back into the houses and de-differentiating themselves into stem cells or even alpha cells for that matter. Okay. And there's one more thing, like this secretion is happening. Fine, good. What is insulin? Insulin is a protein. Insulin is basically a protein. A few amino acids are just like sutras, like Patanjali Yoga Sutras. All these sutras have been like beautifully threaded in a beaded pattern. All the amino acids are beaded down like a mala, right? So that is what we call as a protein, a chain of amino acids. Now, if you're ironing a shirt, it has to be folded in certain way. It has to be folded in certain way. It has to be beautifully packed. Only then when we go to a shop, we'll buy that shirt for wearing. Just imagine if it is all crushed and this, that, everything. If it's been thrown out somewhere, we are not going to take that anywhere. Like this, the beta cells or body cells, when it is releasing insulin, it beautifully ions everything. It packs them beautifully, and then it sends it out to circulation. That folding is called as the oxidative folding. Remember this word? That folding is called as the oxidative folding. Without the oxidative process, this folding cannot happen. Okay, so this is like the three-dimensional aspect of how that folding actually happens. All right, now coming to the qualitative disorder. In type 2 diabetes, as I already mentioned, there's increase in the pro-insulin to insulin ratio, irrespective of the duration of diabetes. It's not like only after 10 years pro-insulin would come down, only after, pro-insulin would increase, or only after 20 years pro-insulin would increase. There's nothing of that sort. even in newly diagnosed diabetes patients, proinsulin ratio and proinsulin to insulin ratios are higher. And protein misfolding and resultant endoplasmic reticular stress is a major pathophysiological event. And this is what is causing this qualitative disorder. We have seen here, right? The ironing process requires oxidative folding. If there is oxidative stress, what happens is folding is not happening properly. Then as a result of it, the qualitative disorder would tend to set in. Okay, so the increased oxidative stress causes a decreased transcription of insulin gene by decreasing PDX1 and MAFA binding. As a result of it, proinsulin to insulin ratio increases, right? But yoga has a solution for it. Okay, yoga has a solution for it. It is not like yoga goes and directly reduces proinsulin. There's a process for everything. There's a process for everything, and the process through which yoga helps in improving this qualitative disorder. We have plenty of papers which say yoga is beneficial in reducing oxidative stress, right? Like each and every one of us know, like as a yoga professional, as a yoga therapist and a yoga consultant, we know that yoga is helpful in reducing oxidative stress, right? So once the oxidative stress comes down, automatically protein misfolding gets corrected as well. And thereby there's a reduction in the proinsulin to insulin ratio. That was theoretical up until 1 or 1.5 years ago. Now there's the Ministry of Ayush funded project through which we found that proinsulin to insulin ratio reduces with yoga practice. It was an hypothesis before when this particular paper came out. And now it has been proven by our research at Vyasa University that proinsulin to insulin ratio can be reduced with yoga-based lifestyle intervention. Coming to the second point, the secretion timing disorder. This is the first phase insulin. I mean, as I was telling short while ago, when we are eating, doesn't matter whether it is a solid or a cooked or uncooked or a liquid food. When we are eating something, insulin gets released in 2 phases. The first phase is what we call as acute phase insulin release, which is within the 5 to 10 minutes, not even 15 minutes. During the first 5 to 10 minutes after eating something, there is the sharp rise of insulin secretion. After this 10 to 15 minute mark, slowly this comes down and we hit a plateau. We hit a plateau, like say, it could be like between 2 to 3 hours, depending on what you eat and your beta cell status and other things. It goes for the next 2 to 3 hours. After that, the insulin level comes to the baseline level. Okay, now this is the baseline. From this baseline at this point, we are eating something and our insulin release spikes up. After 10 to 15 minutes, this comes down, hits the plateau for the next 2 to 3 hours, and then it comes down to the basal insulin secretion, right? This is how in a normal healthy individual insulin release will happen. Okay, now why is the sharp insulin releases? How I generally explain the patients is insulin is like it's like a water in the bucket. Okay, it's for emergency, or you can call it a fire extinguisher. In India, we don't generally use fire extinguisher. The first thing is the water what we have next to us. So it's imagine it's like a bucket of water next to us. If the fire starts to set in, you can take this bucket of water, pour on it, and you can put off the fire. But imagine the fire has consumed the whole room and the whole house is burning. This one bucket of water is of no use, right? So insulin is kind of this. So this fire I'm talking about is the blood glucose level. When the blood glucose level is starting to rise, we need this bucket of water to put this fire off in an efficient way. And that is the reason insulin injections are given to patients before eating, right? It's generally given before eating or at the first morsel of food, whatever you're eating, at that point you take insulin, because the insulin should be ready When the glucose start to raise itself, this water has to be poured onto it so that it doesn't become a raging fire, right? So that is the ultimate reason why nature has put it in such a way that this first phase insulin release is much, much higher than your plateau. Okay, but unfortunately, in diabetes, this first phase insulin release, it's not happening. Either it be the early type 2 diabetes or late type 2 diabetes, even in pre-diabetes, even in gestation diabetes, and even first degree relatives or patients with diabetes, this is lost. How to bring it back? I don't think we have any pharmacological intervention to bring it back apart from insulin injection directly, right? Apart from insulin injection directly. I think there's some study talking about sitagliptin and vildagliptin working on it. I'm not ready to the actual study report completely, but as far as I know, we don't have many pharmacological intervention to improve this first phase insulin release. And how we had associated. Now we wrote again to the Ministry of Health, we wrote a proposal. It's a 30 lakh funded research project. The hypothesis which was in our head was like, first phase insulin release is abolished by vagotomy in rats and by atrophin in humans. Okay, which means there is a vagal involvement in the acute phase insulin release. And we all know yoga improves parasympathetic activity via vagus nerve. So we wrote this project, I think it was submitted in 2014. 2014 as my first PhD topic, as it was rejected. My second PhD topic was this, effect of yoga on acute phase insulin release. But because of the funding delay, I was not able to complete my PhD with that topic. So I had to change my topic. And this was taken as the PhD topic for another student who came like 3-4 years after that. And that is now being, presented at the American Diabetes Association conference couple of years back, right? That yoga reduces acute phase insulin release in pre-diabetes. Due to ethical issues, we are not able to do it on diabetes patients because we had to inject glucose into the patients. So for diabetes patients, we couldn't get the ethical approval. So we did it in pre-diabetes patients, and we found yoga is beneficial in overcoming the acute phase insulin release defect in diabetes. This is kind of a landmark finding as far as diabetes research is concerned. We are trying to write it up for a bigger journal for publication. And this in the supplement issue in diabetes has got published. And I think the impact factor is around 8 for this as well. Next is the quantitative disorders. Okay, now quantitative disorders plainly about the secretion of insulin. Right. So now insulin release is facilitated or stimulated by glucose. We all know, like without glucose, insulin won't get secreted. And there are a few other triggers as well. Incretins, like the GLP and the GIP incretins, that helps, and free fatty acid, amino acids like arginine and leucine. So if you are looking for some dietary intervention to increase insulin release, amino acids will be beneficial. And acetylcholine. Again, acetylcholine, now we are talking about acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter of autonomic nervous system, especially the parasympathetic. And yoga, it is beneficial in improving the parasympathetic activation, which in turn stimulates insulin secretion. Now, what I tell to all my diabetes patients is that for insulin to get secreted, you should be relaxed. Only with the parasympathetic activated state of mind, only insulin would be secreted. If they're stressed out, sympathetic arousal. Sympathetic, the only thing what sympathetic does is fight or flight. It prepares the body against a danger. So at that point, what happens is body needs glucose ready-made, isn't it? Body needs glucose to be in a ready-made form so that they can fight or fly away. At that point, if insulin gets secreted, what happens? This insulin will just take all the glucose and store it in our liver or in our adipose tissue. So we cannot fight or fly away. So what body does, whenever we are stressed, our insulin secretion would come down. As simple as that, as simple as that. There's not like big science behind it. Whenever we are stressed, our body cannot do this fight or flight mechanism if insulin is present. Because the moment insulin stores glucose or energy or anything, even fat for that matter, fat or protein, it just takes it up and saves it somewhere. For that time, we need energy to be spent. We need money to be spent at that time, right? We are in an emergency situation. We cannot just go and save that money at that time when our life itself is a danger. Okay, it's just a simple example as such. Fine. Now, for insulin secretion, we need acetylcholine, right? So yoga, as there are plenty of studies, as we all know, yoga is beneficial in improving that as well. And very many studies as well have shown already that yoga is beneficial in increasing the insulin secretion. Okay, now coming to glucagon. Now, glucagon, this is the second pathophysiological abnormality in diabetes of ominous octet, glucagon. Let me just quickly run through these because I think this you might find it boring because that was the previous comment I had received. So I just rushed through this. Fine. Now, glucagon, again, I'll just tell one of my favorite researchers. Okay. This paper came in 2012, right? 2012. The study was done on lab mouse, animal model study. In that study, what they found was in a type 1 diabetes induced rat, if you are inducing type 1 diabetes, so what is happening is you don't have to stimulate the beta cells. That is, you don't have to stimulate insulin secretion to overcome diabetes. Instead, if you are suppressing glucagon, that is even more beneficial. That is what that study did. Okay, that is what that study was mentioning. It was like kind of wow moment for me. It was a wow moment for me, you can say, because we are always looking at like a tunnel vision. We are looking at one thing: insulin, diabetes, insulin resistance. There are a few other aspects as well, and this was one such thing which mentioned or gave the insight. Glucagon has to be suppressed, right? Glucagon has to be suppressed as much as improving the insulin secretion. Fine. So for that, GABA induces membrane hyperpolarization. Now, what GABA does is, it does two things. One, it reduces glucagon secretion, okay, and it increases insulin secretion. It does both the things. And we have studies showing yoga is beneficial in improving GABA when compared to walking. This is Streeter et al. I think way back in 2009 or 10. This is one of the landmark studies, you can say. Yoga is helpful in improving GABA. GABA, we associate with neuroplasticity and other things as well. Now here, for diabetes point of view, it decreases glucagon and increases insulin. So through both these ways, this is beneficial in the management of diabetes. Okay. And this is one of our published data. Okay. This is now published, I think. Okay, fine. So this is the prelude of the Stop Diabetes movement. The Stop Diabetes movement is something we wanted to reduce the prevalence of diabetes through yoga and yoga-based lifestyle modification. So the objective and the core thing, like Anand Yogi said, he knows, like he was one of the architect of this program as such. So what we did was, we used that module and did programs across the country. It was 10-day program. 10-day program, we used to measure the baseline fasting blood glucose level of the patients on day 1 or day 0. And after 10 days, we used to measure the blood glucose levels again. What we found was, in few of the patients, after 10 days of yoga, their blood glucose levels increased. Okay. Yoga, we generally say yoga reduces blood glucose levels. But in this study, what we found was yoga actually increased the blood glucose levels in few of them. And our initial thoughts was that this could be because there's some problem with the lab reports. Report might have got changed, and something they might be under stress, and this, that, everything we thought. But interestingly, we assess the data from a slightly different angle. Okay, because statistics is a whole key thing for a research. It's not what we do. It's like how we interpret what we do gives us the best results. Now, the interpretation part, what we did was, we changed the thing. We grouped the data at the intervals. Okay, we changed the data at the intervals. Right, so patients with blood glucose range about 300, they were all grouped under like in one line, and between 200 to 300, we grouped them as separate group, 100 to 200 in the third, 70 to 100 at baseline were in one group, and patients with less than 70 milligram per deciliter. Now, this is kind of your hypoglycemia range, not a for a doctor, if they're seeing blood glucose level below 70, it's alarming. Like less than 50, it's where like you need emergency and other things, but less than 70 itself is an alarming sign. So we grouped it in this way. And what we found was, in patients with blood glucose level above 300, the blood glucose levels reduce significantly. It's like almost 30%. For those with fasting blood sugar between 200 to 300, the difference or reduction was 20%. Fine. And between 100 to 200, the reduction was almost 10%. But the interesting fact was, if the blood glucose level was between 70 to 100, patient's blood glucose level actually increased by 3.5% each. Okay. If it is less than 70, there was a 20% increase in blood glucose levels. Fine. There was 20% increase in blood glucose levels because yoga, and we concluded that yoga is a safer form of physical activity in reducing risk of hypoglycemia. Many patients do not do yoga or we do not do exercise because thinking that I will get hypoglycemia. No. If you are doing a traditional yoga, I'm not talking about like hot yoga, power yoga, not all the modern day yogas I'm talking about. If you're doing a traditional yoga, right, which helps in improving your acetylcholine and your parasympathetic, your vagus nerve, whatever term we call it or term, and it reduces risk of hypoglycemia. Fine, because body runs homeostasis. Okay, it is not like if someone's BP is high, you do yoga, BP comes down. If the BP is normal, you would not get like, you will not go hypotensive. Likewise, in diabetes, if your blood glucose level is normal, you do yoga, you will not go into hypoglycemia because yoga brings homeostasis. That's what we found. And to bring about homeostasis, we need glucagon. So body has an impact, yoga has an impact on glucagon as well as insulin secretion. So this article is published, and after that, like my PhD paper is based on that. That's completely different arena as such. I just taken only one thread out of it and wanted to put it over here. Vagal control, whenever you're controlling your vagus, your glucagon release as well it is directly attributed to it. Fine. Right. And the third most important thing is your GLP-1. GLP-1, I call it like master hormone for diabetes. Why? Because insulin, if you're taking insulin for diabetes, you have to inject at least once or twice in a day, isn't it? At least once or twice in a day, you have to inject insulin to reduce the blood glucose level. But when it comes to GLP-1s, exenatide, there's something called a weekly exenatide. Like you take it once in a week, for the rest of the week, your blood glucose levels will be under control. Amazing, right? Just one injection for the whole week, your blood glucose level is going to be under control. So what that actually means is your GLP-1s are better than insulin. How? How does GLP increases your insulin, reduces your glucagon? One thing done. It also reduces your insulin resistance. The same thing what metformin does. It also works on your gastric, it delays gastric emptying, so that if you're hungry or something, or even something related to your alpha glucosidase inhibitors, okay, I mean, any other medicines as a GLP-1, it's like kind of an all-rounder. It does the batting, it does the bowling, it does even the wicket keeping as well. It does everything. And vagus nerve again comes and plays a major role in this one. Now, the genes encoding GLP has three main sites of expression. One is the alpha cells, and L cells of large intestine. That is where it is actually getting secreted. GLP-1s are secreted in the large intestine, right? As it is got like GLP-1s means glucagon-like peptide. So naturally, another site of expression of the genes are at the alpha cells, where glucagon comes out. And the third site of expression is in our brain, right? And the nucleus tractus solitarius of brain, which is also the nucleus for vagus nerve as well. Okay. One second. Fine. So when you are stimulating your vagus nerve, automatically what happens is your GLP-1 secretion also would be enhanced. And subdiaphragmatic vagotomy completely abolishes fat-induced GLP-1 release. Subdiaphragmatic as well as your hepatic branch. If you are doing vagotomy, GLP-1 and GAP-1 release would be stopped. And vagus nerve, I always feel like vagus nerve should not be classified as one of the cranial nerves. It is actually the cranial nerve. When it comes to yoga, it doesn't matter whether you're going into the mudras, you're going into the bandhas, whether you're going to the kriyas or pranayama, or you're talking about pratyahara. The vagus activation runs through every single system as such. Okay. And it is more than just one cranial nerve. Fine. So it has got like multiple benefits working through or working across the system. And even in dietary part, let us don't have to go into it. Okay. Insulin resistance. Skeletal muscle, we all know it's a major site of glucose disposal. If a blood glucose levels are more, what we have to work on is the larger group of muscles in our body. The moment we work out larger group of muscle, what happens is AMP kinase mediated glucose uptake would start to happen. Okay. The insulin mediated glucose uptake might be stopped, right? So the insulin mediated glucose uptake might have stopped because of insulin resistance. Fine. Insulin resistance is only for the insulin. But if you're just flexing your muscle, just by contracting a muscle, either isometric or isotonic, what that would do is, it would induce the glucose transporter 4 translocation into your cell surface, your cell wall or your plasma membrane. It just moves the glucose transporter 4 to the cell surface so that it takes up glucose into the cells. Fine. So yoga isometric contractions, because of the isometric contractions involved in yoga or the asanas part in specific. So that is going to helpful in reducing insulin resistance. There are some other ways as well through which AMP kinase pathway can be activated by hypoxia, probably through your Kapalbhati pranayama that can be done, and nitric oxide through Brahmari pranayama. The same thing can be done as well. That is to overcome your insulin resistance, AMP kinase pathway can be acted upon. And Chaya et al., one of the very important papers from SVS again on diabetes. This was done in 2008. 2008, and Nagaratna Didi beautifully explains this, like whenever she gives lecture, and this was done on set of young male yoga practitioners. So we all think insulin is good. Till date, I think insulin is good, right? So insulin is good. So when this study was conducted on young male yoga practitioner, and the principal investigator wanted to check the blood glucose levels. Insulin levels. How are the insulin levels before and after yoga? And what they found was insulin level actually reduced. Insulin level was reduced in this particular study, and everyone were worried, like whether the study has gone in the wrong way. That everyone were worried. But the principal investigator came and he was very happy. He was very happy. It seems like, why are you so happy? And he told insulin, the amount of insulin has been reduced because if insulin resistance is lesser, naturally the insulin secretion would be lesser. Okay, only as the insulin resistance is more, body is trying to pump in more insulin to overcome that defect. If the insulin, if it is functioning in the normal way, then whatever insulin is present is sufficient enough. Body will not be secreting more insulin. So lesser insulin in the circulation, what it actually means is that insulin sensitivity has increased. Right? So that was documented way back in 2008, specifically on insulin sensitivity. Right? And adipose tissue. Now, diabetes is a low-grade inflammatory condition. And the role of IL-6 and TNF-alpha on insulin resistance is very well established. Like the harmful part, the pro-inflammatory, likewise the anti-inflammatory part of adiponectin activating the AMP kinase of liver, thereby reducing the hepatic insulin resistance. Fine. And so both these activity has been found to be improved with yoga, either with the adiponectin, leptin, or the harmful pro-inflammatory cytokines like the IL-6 has been shown to be improved with yoga. Okay, so diabetes is an inflammatory condition, low-grade chronic inflammatory condition. And what yoga does is yoga is beneficial in reducing this inflammation, thereby working on the root cause of diabetes as such. I call it root cause because it is a chronic inflammatory nature. And this IL-6 and TNF-alpha are the one which goes into the cell and causes the insulin resistance. Likewise, if the inflammation is more in the beta cells, because of the free radical damage and oxidative stress, beta cells end up in all the things what we just now saw. The beta cell dysfunction sets up. Okay, now again, hepatic glucose production, it's directly related with our glucagon. Directly related with our glucagon. Now, as we already saw, adiponectin through AMP kinase pathway reduces hepatic insulin resistance. That is the SBV what we are talking about. And now liver. So liver health is directly associated with our fasting blood glucose levels. I mean, you might have noticed that in some patients, blood sugar levels after food would be lesser than before food, right? I'm repeating, blood sugar levels in few patients after food should actually increase, but in few patients, it would have been lower than the fasting sugar levels. This is very much possible. This is very much possible. And why this is happening is because of our liver health. Okay, if there is hepatic insulin resistance, if there is insulin resistance in the liver, then naturally what happens is your fasting sugar levels remain elevated. And to work on this specific aspect, what we did was we went into the meta-analysis of how yoga works in diabetes, like all the papers before this specific paper came. What we consistently found in all the meta-analysis paper was yoga had a better impact in reducing the fasting blood glucose when compared to postprandial. Okay, as you can see here now, the postprandial here has reduced by around 17 milligrams. Here it has reduced around 23 milligram per deciliter. Okay, and this we were able to see in few other papers as well. So yoga definitely has some impact on the liver and the hepatic insulin resistance by looking at the fasting blood glucose levels. Okay. and the other way is through the glucose reabsorption. Now, we don't have any direct connection to see whether yoga has any impact on the glucose reabsorption, which happens at the kidney level. We have gliflosins generally given for this glucose reabsorption, SGLT2 inhibitors, right? It has got no direct effect. So what we are going to do is we associate it with some other concept. Now, SGLT2 and glucose transporter 2 are expressed more in diabetes to compensate for beta cell dysfunction. Okay, glucose transporter is the one which allows glucose into the beta cells for that to secrete insulin, right? And one more thing what we found was reduced POMC, a pro-opiomelanocortin, which is a precursor of melanocytes, that actually reduces insulin resistance by reducing sympathetic activity. Okay, now this has had direct impact on glycosuria. So yoga, through reducing the sympathetic activity, it might have an impact on POMC and thereby has an impact on glycosuria, right? And brain, finally. Now, up until this is the 8th of 8 pathophysiological abnormalities, right? We're finishing a couple of slides now. In 1854, Claude Bernard, what he said or what he suggested was, if there is a lesion in the floor of the fourth cerebral ventricle, there was a disturbance in the glucose homeostasis. Now, 1921 and 22, we had Banting and West, the Nobel Prize winning discovery of insulin. Ever since that happened, our complete focus is only on insulin, right? We are like so tunnel vision. We focus only on insulin resistance and everything that secretes insulin. But before that, there were other pathophysiological abnormalities, and one such thing where people focused on was on brain, right? So brain was one of the pathophysiological abnormalities in brain, ended up in diabetes. So there is a strong evolutionary link between our neurons and beta cells, which produce insulin, right? For example, jellyfish and roundworms, neurons produce insulin. Okay, interestingly, in jellyfish and roundworm, neurons produce insulin. And even in higher animals, hypothalamus actually can sense blood glucose levels, much like what beta cell does. As we saw before, now, glucose transporter 2, the role of glucose transporter 2 is to sense the amount of glucose in the blood. Okay, to sense the amount of blood glucose in the blood, the same way hypothalamus can also sense the amount of glucose in the blood. Fine, and we have like, okay, now BDF prevents apoptosis and prevents insulin secreting capacity of beta cells. Again, it works in the neuroplasticity component. BDNF, just like working on the brain, it also prevents the beta cells as well. And serotonin increases beta cell proliferation. Now these two things, BDNF and serotonin, again, we do have papers showing yoga is beneficial in improving the BDNF and serotonin. These are all the papers like supporting the thing. And yeah, Sarah Laser, like when it comes to meditation, cortical thickness, I think it's a groundbreaking research as such, came way back in 2005. Ever since, I mean, before that, we used to think cortex age-related degeneration is irreversible, right? And this was one of the again, groundbreaking research. We have to say it's a groundbreaking research. It said even the cortical thickness can be increased with meditation. It need not necessarily undergo atrophy. Meditation, yoga can do the miracle of increasing the cortical thickness. Fine. To summarize everything and put it in like one nutshell as such. Now, this is again derived from ominous doctrine model of Defronser. So, yoga working on muscle insulin resistance by reducing inflammation, increasing AMP kinase activation, increasing the GLUT4 translocation, thereby increasing insulin sensitivity. And it works on beta cells by reducing oxidative stress, endoplasmic reticular stress, increasing acute phase insulin release, and by reducing beta cell dysfunction. And works on glucagon by increasing GABA, increasing insulin to glucagon ratio by decreasing glucagon. Yeah, but through that it is decreasing glucagon levels. GLP-1 increases vagal tone, increases GLP-1, decreases gastric emptying and reduces inflammation, lipolysis, decreases sympathetic nervous activity. It reduces glucose reabsorption in liver. It reduces hepatic insulin resistance. Now, this is very, very, very important. Reducing hepatic insulin resistance. One of the key components in diabetes reversal is about reducing the fat content. Hepatic insulin resistance happens because of the fat accumulation in our liver. So by reducing the fat content in the liver and by reducing the fat content in beta cells only will be able to reverse diabetes. So this is a very, very, very key contribution of yoga, you can say. And as far as brain is concerned, works on like HPA axis, increases GABA and PDNF. Right. So this just got summarized, and this is kind of a dream paper, we can say, because it got published, I think, in 2019 to 21. That time it got published, but this got rejected at least like 12 to 13 times. 12 to 13 times it got rejected because I wanted this to go into the mainstream diabetes journal. It finally ended up with Journal of Diabetology, and it's really prestigious because of the co-authors. We have Nagratna Didi, like, who's kind of a mentor and a stalwart over there, and Ramesh Mahato sir. He taught me the nuts and bolts of molecular biology and molecular bioscience. And so he's my guide for my PhD as well. He taught all that in a more simplified way. And coming over here, Dr. V. Mohan. Dr. V. Mohan, like Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center, it's named after him. He's my role model, you can say. Like I want to become a diabetes researcher like him. And many say like, wow, you got 60 plus research publications. But looking up at him, like with 1,500 plus publications, he's my role model. He keeps inspiring to do more and more and more. And Anjana Mohan is the MD of Dr. Mohan's, like his daughter. So this combination, like, it is so satisfying. This is so satisfying. And if you are looking for any specific references on the mechanism of action of diabetes, this could be the paper to go for. And from the ominous octet model, now we have this egregious 11. We have like 11 pathophysiological abnormalities where 3 things have been included: immune dysregulation, low amylin, and gut microbiome. So these are the 9 what you see here. Okay. We have written a proposal to ICMR recently, like in the latest call for, we have written a proposal to see like how yoga could be beneficial in this egregious 11 as well. And if the funding gets succeeded, we are looking at the gene expression level, and if possible at the epigenetic changes as well, like whether yoga can bring about those changes in specific to this pathophysiological abnormalities, because we know yoga is beneficial in gene expression and also for epigenetic changes. This is in specific regarding to diabetes. To conclude, now yoga therapy for diabetes is more holistic and not minimalistic. Yoga is not about reducing blood glucose level alone, right? And it's not only about increasing insulin alone. It is much more deeper when it comes to diabetes management. And yoga works on multiple aspects of ominous octet, even egregious 11. We don't know that. Like we have written a research project for it. And yoga therapy should not be limited to just with asanas. Whatever benefits we saw so far, like working on the free radical damage, oxidative stress, inflammation, all these aspects, yoga in totality. We are talking about yoga as a way of life, right? So these are my take-home messages. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Venugopal. I must admit, when I first met you in the yoga festival, I said that was the best talk I have heard on yoga and diabetes. I think this has surpassed that also. And you continue to amaze me by bringing these aspects that have not percolated into the yoga vocabulary. Yoga therapy, as you said rightly, even today, many are still thinking that you compress the pancreas, you get more insulin and it cures diabetes. This is rampant, and it is misinformation, misconceptions. And, I just love the way you have brought all this practicality together. And I have now got these new terms, egregious 11 and omnious octet, which I admit till this moment I had not heard about. So, that's beautiful when we get this new knowledge and how everything is interconnected. And again, an important message, you had shared it in January also. It's about the balance. Yoga is about finding balance, physiological, that is homeostasis, and not just increasing or decreasing a parameter. So we think yoga will reduce BP. If you're already hypotensive, why should it reduce your BP? If you're already hypoglycemic, why should it reduce your blood sugar? And this is a question which my own Professor Madan Mohanji used to tell us. If you're normal, yoga will not make you subnormal. And we keep on thinking we have to have these values go down all the time. Now, if it is pathologically high or low, yoga will correct it. And that is where that samatvam concept, and more than anything, I loved your sharing the fact that this path-breaking paper had 12 to 14 rejections. I think every young scientist should listen to this, absorb that, and understand, because the moment we get one rejection, we give up. The moment we get one negative peer comment, we feel depressed. And this is how science grows. And you are in the right hands, both from the yoga point of view with Nagaratna, Didi, Guruji, and then the pinnacle of diabetic care with Dr. Mohan and his daughter. So it is beautiful to have this, and I congratulate you on taking it forward. I feel you have found your purpose in life. Your dharma, you have found it. Now all you have to do is keep living it. You just have to keep living it, because we all want to find the purpose of life. I think you have definitely found it, and you're sharing it in such a way. It may be a bit too much for some of us because it really makes your brain work. But I think this is much needed. And yes, if there are some questions, we could have about 10 minutes at the most. Otherwise, everybody is going to get hypoglycemic for lunch.
Namaste, Ji. It was wonderful. As Dr. Sir told, it's maybe without having the medical background, it's too much maybe sometime to listen, but it's a good seva. All the information that you are really sharing to reach to the people, because the major problem now people are facing. And just my doubt is especially for the type 1, if they have the food, if it is too much, if they are high, that means after having the food, within how long we know that it's getting high, or before it's you should bring down the sugar level, giving the insulin. So within the how long, if you give the injection, give the insulin, it will get down without making the problem for them, the body. Whether the timing sense, any timing sense, we could have the idea.
You're asking about the problem you're talking about. Is it about hypoglycemia, ma'am?
அவங்களுக்கு இப்போ இன்சுலின் அவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்கணும், ஹையா இருக்கு. Example, if they have like a nearly 400. So if, after giving the insulin, within how long that it will bring down, or after food, if they're having some food eating, so we can have the idea after how long it will digest, then we have the idea how within the how long time it will take the sugar level for them. blood glucose
Okay,
level.
fine. In the question, I think Dr. Balaji will be the right person to answer for this, or the Balaji sir. But now, especially for type 1 diabetes, like if you're giving the injection, half an hour wait பண்ணி பார்க்கணும். Like whatever things I am seeing அப்படின்னு பார்க்கும்போது ரெண்டாவது, if it is before food like 10 minutes before food இல்லைன்னா 15 minutes before food கொடுக்குறீங்கன்னா, please do ensure that he is having a his or a lunch-ஓ இல்லைன்னா என்ன ஃபுட் சாப்பிடுறாங்களோ 15 minutes-ல எடுக்கிற மாதிரி பார்த்துக்கோங்க, so that they don't end up with hypoglycemia. Okay. இது ஆன்சர் பண்ணிடுச்சா கொஸ்டின் இல்லைன்னா?
ஏன்னா நம்மளுக்கு வந்து after eating how long it will take to show that level அவங்க பாடியில, how long it will take?
சாப்பிடுறீங்கன்றத கொடுக்குறீங்க. நீங்க இப்போ என்ன ஒரு குளுக்கோன் எடுத்து குடிக்கிறீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, குளுக்கோன் குடிச்சீங்கன்னா 5 நிமிஷம் 10 நிமிஷத்துல ஏற ஆரம்பிச்சு. இதுவே நீங்க ஃபைபர் ரிச் ஃபுட் எடுக்கிறீங்கன்னா அதோட கிளைசெமிக் இண்டெக்ஸ் கம்மியா இருக்கிறதால it would take some time. ஸோ இது ஜென்ரலான கொஸ்டினா, சாப்பிட்டுட்டு எவ்வளவு நேரத்துல சுகர் ஏறும்னு கேக்குறீங்க, கரெக்டா? அதுக்கான பதில் நீங்க என்ன சாப்பிடுறீங்கன்றத பொறுத்து.
Because அது ஆஃப்டர் டைஜஷன் தான், அப்புறம் தானே அது காமிக்க முடியும் அப்படின்ட்டு.
இல்ல நீங்க வாய்க்குள்ள லைக் இந்த ஹார்ட் அட்டாக் ஒரு மெடிசன் கொடுப்பாங்களே ஆன்ஜினாக்கு, நாக்குன்றது வெறும் சாப்பிடுறது மெல்றதுக்கு மட்டும் கிடையாது. It does the process of digestion, absorption, எல்லாமே it starts from your mouth. Okay, acute phase of insulin release ன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Even before eating the food, நீங்க ஃபுட் கண்ணுல பார்க்கும் போதே உங்க இன்சுலின் செக்ரேட் ஆக ஆரம்பிச்சிடும் உள்ள.
Okay.
Right, so like it is not a kind of direct correlation. நீங்க ஒரு 15 மார்க் क्वेश्चन ஒரு லைன்ல கேக்குறீங்க.
சாரி. அதே மாதிரி அவங்க அந்த இன்சுலின் அந்த ஹையா இருக்கு, அதை நம்ம இன்சுலின் கொடுத்து அதை குறைக்கணும். அது வந்து எவ்வளவு நேரம் ஹையா இருந்தா அந்த பாடியில ப்ராப்ளம் ஆகுறது அவங்களுக்கு, எவ்வளவு நேரத்துக்குள்ள நம்ம இன்சுலின் கொடுத்துட்டா அது ப்ராப்ளம் ஆகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி குறைச்சிடணும்.
Like I think in the session this is not about you have to get the medical advice. அந்த பேஷண்ட்டை go and ask him to consult endocrinologist பார்த்து தான் பண்ணணும். இஃப் நாட் என்ன ஆயிடுனா, இப்போ நான் ஒன்று கொடுக்குறேன் அப்படின்னா, if I'm giving some advice, இது எல்லாருக்குமே காமனான அட்வைஸ் மாதிரி ஆயிடும். It should not be done or taken on that. So this session is not for the medical advice-காக கிடையாது. Endocrinologist கிட்ட பேசிட்டு every individual person has to consult with an endocrinologist before making any changes with their insulin. அவ்வளவுதான் ரூல் ஆஃப் தம், ஒன் லைன்ல முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. பிகாஸ் நீங்க ஏதாவது இண்டிவிஜுவல் ஒரு பர்சனுக்கு நீங்க கேக்குறீங்கன்னா, if I'm answering for that, like we have like 30 other people and 30 other people might also be having that doubt. If I'm என்ன சொல்றோமோ, if that message is going there, that would be a very wrong guidance for us. சரிங்களா? So kindly excuse medical advice அப்படின்ற விஷயம் I cannot give it in holistic-ஆ தர முடியாது. அது லைக் காமனான புரோட்டோகால் மாதிரி அது தர முடியாது, தரவும் கூடாது. இட்ஸ் இண்டிவிஜுவலைஸ், ஹைலி இண்டிவிஜுவலைஸ்.
Thank you.
சரிங்களா? ஓகே.
Sir, wonderful session. Namaste. I have a doubt. Sir, you have talked about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Now the recent trend is the mode of diabetes is increasing more. Maturity onset diabetes in young. Do you have come across the cases like this, and how yoga helps with them? The same effect or different? Because mode is genetically they have some problem, autosomal dominant disorder it is actually. So is it the same way you approach to the patient or any different angle you put it, especially for the Modi patients?
தனியா பார்த்தோம் அப்படின்னா மோடி அப்படின்ற மாதிரியோ லாடா பேஷன்ஸ் ஆர் வெரி ரேர் சார். ஸோ மோடியும் சரி லாடாவும் சரி, தே ஜஸ்ட் கெட் ஃபில்டர்ட் அவுட் அட் தி நம்ம டெர்ஷரி ஸ்பெஷாலிட்டி ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்ஸ்ல தே கெட் ஃபில்டர்ட் அவுட். பிகாஸ் இப்போ நான் ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறது இட்ஸ் கவர்மெண்ட் ஹாஸ்பிட்டல், கவர்மெண்ட் யோகா நேச்சுரோபதி மெடிக்கல் காலேஜ் அப்படின்னும் போது both LADA and Modi, they get diagnosed only like I was working at Dr. Mohan's. There we see like a lot of patients, either be Modi or LADA. We see a lot of patients there, but currently they don't move into the diabetes reversal. I'm just working on it for the past, I think 3-4 years only. I'm working on yoga works for them. Definitely works for them, even if it is genetic. Epigenetic வரைக்கும் போக தேவையில்லை. It is genetic. என்ன சொல்றது சிங்கிள் ஜீன்ல இருக்கிற ப்ராப்ளம் தான் நமக்கு மோடி அப்படின்னும் போது இட் ஒர்க்ஸ் ரியலி குட். பட் ஃபார் லாடா ஐ எம் நாட் ஆக்சுவலி ட்ரைட் ஃபார் தட். லாடா நான் ட்ரை பண்ணதில்லை. மோடி இட் இஸ் ஒர்க்கிங் குட். மோடி இட்ஸ் ஒர்க்கிங் ரியலி குட். ஏன்னா லாடாக்கு அகெயின்ஸ்ட் an inflammatory condition, it's an autoimmune condition அப்படின்னும் போது autoimmune delayed autoimmune அப்படின்னும் போது I'm sure like yoga would be beneficial, but not till the extent of reversing it, because the inflammation has got into a certain stage of it's almost like type 1 diabetes அப்படின்றதால reversal might not be possible, but effective management we can amazingly manage with yoga because it reduces the inflammation.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, everybody. Venugopal sir, that was mind blowing. That's the only word I can think about. Pardon my ignorance because this is the first time I'm listening to you. Adnala enak vandu I didn't know how effective it is going to be. I'm accepting that openly because this has been totally like the misconceptions, how many misconceptions we carry when we associate things with diabetes. So that is something which totally settled into my mind. And like one question, you are in this pathway now. The trigger, why is what is happening when you're doing Mahardha Matsyendrasana? So like that, all of us need that trigger to push us through ahead into something. I'm so very eager now to listen to you when you are here visiting us at Pondicherry for the conference. So requesting all of you to please come and register so that you can listen more of Venugopal sir, like on the same topic, which is what he is going to be doing during our conference also. Thank you so much, sir. Again, just very, very eager to listen to you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, can I take
Sir, can I have a doubt? Can I ask you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir,
Yes,
one, like உங்களோட அந்த presentation வந்து it was very amazing, sir. எனக்கு வந்துட்டு ஒரு சின்ன doubt அதுல, like நீங்க ஒவ்வொரு இதுவா explain பண்ணிட்டு வந்துட்டு இருந்த போது, like you said about kidney, right? Kidneyல வந்துட்டு kidney problems cannot be solved by இதுவா sir? எனக்கு சின்ன understanding, misunderstanding அந்த மாதிரி ஆச்சு. அதனால I just wanted to clarify. Kidney problems can be addressed by yoga therapy or it cannot be, sir. I just wanted to know that alone.
Okay, fine. So நீங்க kidney problem அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது அந்த kidney disease creatinine அதிகமா இருக்கிறது பத்தி சொல்றீங்க.
Yes, of course. அந்த proteinuria சொல்லிட்டு சொல்லுவாங்க. அந்த மாதிரி பேஷண்ட்க்குலாம் நம்ம எப்படி ட்ரீட் பண்றது சார்? as a yoga therapist நாங்க எப்படி ட்ரீட் பண்ணனும் அவள?
Okay. நான் சொல்ல வந்தது அத பத்தி இல்ல மேம் actually.
Yes, of course I understood, but still my apart from the deviation தான் டாபிக் எனக்கு இந்த டவுட்.
இது கண்டிப்பா நம்ம மேனேஜ் பண்ணலாம். It's very much possible to manage. Sorry, I think we have non-English speakers here as well. Hope you are fine with talking in English.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, fine, right, perfect. Now the thing is, CKD, chronic kidney disease, can be effectively managed with yoga, right? So again, effectively managed na yen na solren appadina, this again it is triggered by inflammation. We are looking at the pathophysiological abnormality. What is the root cause of the problem? Adha main ana vishayam. Don't look like nama yoga பண்ணும்போது can it go and directly stimulate kidney ஏதாச்சும் பண்ணுமா? Can we just bend the kidney? Can we just manipulate the kidney? அப்படின்ற மாதிரி யோசிச்சோம்னா you will not be getting the answer for it, right? The way what is actually happening in the kidney is the inflammation. Because of the inflammatory changes at the nephron level, we are having problem over there. So to overcome that, what we have to focus on is the inflammation. We have to look at the underlying inflammation and not at the end product of your kidney or a nephron. If you are focusing, we will not be getting the answer. Yoga being we work at the root cause of all the problems. Now the root cause of problem here for CKD is inflammation. So inflammation.
I think your answer is beautiful there. That it is a central mechanism. We are always looking at the periphery, and what you are suggesting is more the central mechanisms. I hope I got.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think this is a very beautiful approach that you have taken, Dr. Venugopal, in that you are educating people about the inherent multipotent effect of yoga. It's a, like we talk of pluripotent cells, it's a multipotent effect. It is not just by twisting the kidney or twisting the heart. You know, we limit ourselves. We forget that because we have sort of, I think our education gives us a mechanical model. We are often thinking in mechanistic models for everything. We forget that more than the mechanical, it is the physiological that is important and the biological systems approach. So it is the multi-system. When you talked of the octet or the 11, it is all the systems coming in. And so, you know, you're going to talk of the nervous system, you're going to talk of the immune system, you're going to talk of the lymphatic system, you're going to, you know, everything plays a role, which is the message I really have got reiterated by you today, that it is not reductionist. Again, we are in a danger today of reductionism coming into yoga therapy in the name of evidence-based. I think this is, see, earlier it was reductionist based on tradition-based. Now it is reductionist based on evidence-based. So we have to come out of that and look at the wider picture through the evidence prism. So prism is evidence-based, but it should look at the wider interconnectivity and not limit just to the organ system. It's a beautiful, beautiful message. As Meena said, I'm looking forward to having you with us on the 17th, 16th or 17th? Say, okay, 16th, 17th of June. I am still trying to get the schedule clear in my head where we are going to have this session. And my dear Dilip Dada, you are still awake for us.
Yes.
I think you deserve to have the closing words.
I want to share one new term. We are
Yes.
using one new term. I want all of you to take it home. It is called reductionist holism. You all
Wow.
talk about reductionist, you brought it to the reductionist. We said, add the holistic with the reductionist. So with the physicians, you know, all the Western trained physicians are reductionists. Whole Western medicine is reductionist. So now we include the holistic. Thank you again. It was very good. Now for me to take off. Thank you for being
Dada.
here. Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dada. Thank you, Dr. Venugopal, for making this session such a learning session for all of us. I request Dr. Balaji to close the session at this point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you both the speakers for the wonderful session. I request you to join day after tomorrow, Thursday, for one more wonderful session given by Dr. Shailendra Dubey, Assistant Professor, Department of Yogic Sciences and Human Consciousness, Dev Sanskriti, and followed by our dear Professor Ingen Hagen, Madam, Department of Psychology, Norwegian University of Science, Norway. So we request you to join 10:30 a.m. day after tomorrow, Thursday. And we'll close the session with Shanti Mantra. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu sarve janaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Nandri, thank you. Dhanyawad. See you all on Thursday. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. It's
Such a
very
pleasure.
nice session. Both Venugopal sir and Dadaji sir.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.